a powerful force commanding respect from captains of industry and the state, the South African labour movement is arguably now a shadow of its former self. While most workers are left to fend for themselves, jostling for power and politics have displaced the voice of labour.
We are in alliance with the African National Congress, the SABC, which is the South African Communist Party, and SANCO. That makes us to be in that political space. There are pros and cons of that.
The issue was promotion. As far as black people were concerned, when you're getting promoted, only whites and Indians got promoted.
We want to be militant because the material conditions of workers dictate that we want that there is a need for a fighting trade union movement, not a sweetheart.
May Day 2017. Workers worldwide are commemorating their achievements over many decades and lamenting the setbacks. But in South Africa, the day is consumed by the booing of the country's beleaguered president and some members of his party's executive. This is either victory as they take back their power, or the razing to the ground of a once powerful force with little prospects of regaining its voice.
When I was young, I've always loved machines. So when I did grade 10, it was at Franz du Toit High School. I was introduced to engineering, and from there on, I ran with engineering. First, I got a bursary from Transnet. It was in 2005. And then now I finished my diploma. I did my training. And then after that, I got employed at technology management. As soon as I got there, I found people complaining about racism. The issue was promotion. As far as black people were concerned, when you're getting promoted, only whites and Indians got promoted. And also in terms of exposure, overseas exposure. Black people never got to travel, only whites and Indians traveled. And those fancy engineering courses, only white people attended. Black people didn't get the opportunity to attend.
South Africa is dealing with the ghost of its past. Racism is still very much the national question. Unfortunately, some of the shop floor issues that workers in this country still have to grapple with are more than just unbearable working conditions. Thabo says his dreams of making it big in this industry were soon dashed when he learned that about 50 of Transnet's black technicians and engineers resigned because of racism, especially in the freight rail division. When it started affecting Thabo, he made it his mission to take up the struggle. After receiving many complaints, management instituted an investigation. This was the second racism probe at Transnet since 2008. The first one found that there was racism in the organization and promotions and training opportunities were not provided equally. These were among the submissions.
But I felt that in my case, it wasn't the same when we're comparing to other fellow colleagues who, of different color. A lot of people resign and nothing is done to stop them from resigning.
The former employees testified, but the report said there was no evidence of racism since they spoke about past experiences. Thabo disagreed with the findings but was denied access to the full report. Soon afterwards, he was charged with misconduct. Transnet accused him of bringing the company into disrepute, incitement, abuse of company resources, and making unsubstantiated allegations.
If you can look at all the charges from charge number 1 until charge number 4. They all stem from the racism issue. If the employee did not raise the racism issue and did not open the case of racism at the labor court, I don't think they had any ground to charge him or dismiss him.
From there, things got worse. Thabo had to testify and defend himself after his union abandoned him. His lawyer was not allowed into his disciplinary hearing.
No, you play us for a fool. You're not going to play me for a fool anymore. You are not going to play me for a fool.
I'm going to lay a complaint on this whole process.
You can lodge a complaint to Mr. Zuma.
The chairperson said Thabo did not understand procedure. He was found guilty of his misconduct charges, but later appealed the outcome with the Transnet Bargaining Council.
When's the one?
Also, the one there's the bargaining council one.
Please don't piss me off today. Don't get me off my mood. Please. Just let me do what I have to do. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
You can't tell me which reference number I need to start with. I'm introducing a case here.
Thabo says this shows bias by the commissioner and that an independent person should have ruled in his favor. In his defense, the Bargaining Council says Thabo abandoned the proceedings. He denies this.
They didn't come back after lunch break. They actually even took my laptop and my documents. And then I started sending SMSs to the employer, asking them, where were they? I'm waiting for them. We need to continue and to proceed. And they actually didn't come back.
After losing the appeal at the Bargaining Council, Thabo took the matter to the CCMA and then to the Labour Court, which dismissed the application, saying the documentation was incomplete and incoherent. As a result, Thabo and his lawyer failed to make a case that the process was unfair. They then petitioned the judge president of the Labour Court to look into the matter.
I'm hoping that I will be able to win my petition because my case, from the disciplinary hearing is clear, all right, that my dismissal was unfair.
The applicant is waiting for the decision of the judge president. I have reason to believe we can win the case. It's a winnable case. And if you win, he'll have to go back to work. Or if Transnet doesn't want him back, they will have to compensate him.
Thabo's situation has turned his life at home upside down.
We've basically lived out of handouts. It was bad in the house. We had to cut costs everywhere possible. I mean, I just had a baby. My son was only 5 months older then. And obviously you have plans for your child. And when this happens, you suddenly faced with, I don't know, how are we going to survive? How are you going to provide for your child? We were both not working. We didn't have an income. We entirely dependent on this one income that he had.
To be honest, what motivates me is the gospel. Basically, the word of God, it's what keeps me calm, and at the same time, it motivates me to, keep on fighting and not give up.
About what happens when we put our differences aside and we come together as a human race.
Salt makes its way out of the kitchen into the art studio.
Normally, salt is for food and stuff, but then here's salt.
Past couple of months, I've grown so much and I'm just ready to impart what I've learned to the next Miss South Africa. I wasn't expecting this. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm feeling so overwhelmed.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
The shortage of skills in South Africa hampers the growth of our economy. Rail and transport utility Transnet spends millions on training and grooming these skills in young technicians and engineers. Siphiwe Dlamini was a young promising student who benefited from a Transnet bursary. In this resignation letter, he cited racism as his reason for leaving.
I ended up hating engineering because in my past life, I've been talented in the environment that I've been.
Siphiwe says he was so desperate that he left Transnet without an alternative source of income because of his trauma from years of experiencing racism. He still doesn't have a stable income today and is learning to make shoes to support his family.
I'm not employed currently, and I'm just trying something, and I used to have this sell part-time and stuff, and that thing now I'm trying to create shoes and stuff, and but at the moment, I tell the truth, it's just finding the path.
We also spoke to current employees of Transnet on condition of anonymity.
There is what I can call a structural racism, where racism is disguised in, in, how can I put it, they can use qualifications, they can use professional registration, all sorts of things to deny people opportunities to progress, within the structures. Even when you study further, whether you obtain a PhD or you obtain a master's, you still be, with the current situation, you still be a technician at an entry level.
They are pushing us away to get involved in serious projects.
They claim that requirements for registration with a professional industry body are inconsistent and are used to exclude them from opportunities. During the racism investigation, the Freight Rail Division manager said each manager is free to determine whether a position requires membership. This is in contrast with Transnet's official position.
That would be totally incorrect. It is not. And in fact, what I'm talking to you about, I'm talking to you about an official company policy that governs this area of work, and which was not done by one person, which was done at the group level, and it covers everybody in the company in that field.
He says that claims of racism at Transnet are not true and cites the organization's employment demographics.
80% of chief engineers are black. I also want to indicate that principal engineers, 60% of them are black. Depot engineers and senior engineers, 70% of them are black. Engineers, chief engineering technicians, 70% of them are black. Engineers in training, 98% of them are black. Technicians in training, 98% of them are black. So the question is, how did we arrive at this? If indeed we're promoting other races at the expense of others.
But do these numbers translate to a change in the experiences of workers on the ground? Transnet denies that staff left due to racism and that it was for better opportunities.
On the 6th of January, we were escorting gold. Then the alarm went off. When that happens, it means there's something wrong. The workers didn't want to leave quickly. As a security guard, I'm not allowed to leave them behind. I waited until they left, but when we tried to leave, it was already dark. The fumes overwhelmed me, and I collapsed.
Hlengiwe Mdladla, a qualified nurse who ended up working as a security guard for Bidvest Protea Coin Security, inhaled chlorine fumes and was admitted to hospital on 2 occasions.
The hospital doctor said my lungs were damaged. I was not breathing well. When I returned to work, I had to start at the Impala clinic. They made an appointment with the doctor, and immediately when I entered the room, he greeted me, and I responded. He asked me why I was speaking like that. He said I was pretending. I'm not ill. Before he examined me, he said my lungs were fine.
Tumelo Khwate and Mbongeni Nomavela also worked for Bidvest Security at the Impala refinery. They all say they are victims of unfair labor practices. Tumelo and Mbongeni say they were dismissed after being subjected to polygraph tests.
When you arrive at Impala, they first take you for a polygraph test. If you pass, they hire you and explain that you'll do it again after 6 months. But I only did the first one after 9 months. Then the next one after a year. They then told me I have failed it. They phoned me after 2 weeks and I met them. They said they don't have a site to redeploy me to. If they don't find one, they will retrench me.
On Monday,
the 30th of March, I went for a polygraph test at Impala. When I got there, the lady doing it gave us forms to fill in. I wrote that I only authorized Impala to get my results.
Tumelo's test was done by Impala, but his results were given to Bidvest.
He said, "Have you applied for a job at Impala?" I said yes. And then he said, "You have failed the polygraph test." I asked him why. You say they. He said, "Have you not done tests with Impala?" I said yes. But I'm surprised that you're the one giving me the results, but you work for Bidvest. I did the test with Impala. Who authorized you to get them? He said you will have to ask Impala. He then said the client doesn't want you anymore on the site because you failed the polygraph test.
Tumelo was dismissed a week after speaking to special assignment. His matter is now with the CCMA. He was not called for a disciplinary hearing as per legal requirement. The law prohibits unauthorized persons from accessing polygraph results. Impala denies any wrongdoing and says Tumelo's test detected dishonesty, and because of the sensitive material on their premises, they cannot retain him at the refinery. Bidvest declined to comment. Impala also denies refusing to give him his results, but in the following audio clip, the company official is clearly refusing to do so.
So right now I want to ask the results. We're not going to give me. Yeah, I tried. Yes, I got the results from him. You want to say, where should I get the results from? Yeah, is that your question? Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to instruct Bidvest what to do. So who must give me the results of because I applied for a job at Impala. Who must I get the results? I said from Impala side, we don't get the results. Oh, so how did I get the results? If you don't give me the results, it's like doing self-progression. How do I get it? How do you get the results? Is that your question?
Professor David Rees, a specialist at the National Institute for Occupational Health, conducted an independent test on Hlengiwe.
She had what's called an inhalation accident. They're quite common, unfortunately. In her particular case, it was chlorine. So chlorine is the stuff that you throw in your pool to keep the water clean, and it's put in our water so that it becomes potable. It can be a liquid or a gas or a solid. In her case, it was a gas, and she was in quite a small space, and it took her a while to get out of the space, so she inhaled quite a lot of it. And chlorine can actually affect all parts of the respiratory system, from your nose all the way to the bottom of your lung.
He says depending on the level of exposure, effects can be short or long-term, and other respiratory problems can arise. Impala doesn't deny the incident, but claims the gas was a small quantity, and Hlengiwe had a pre-existing condition that caused her deterioration. She denies this, saying she passed all the tests when she joined the refinery.
Hindu devotees took a holy dip at Sangam, the confluence of rivers Ganges. People and priests made their way to the banks before the break of dawn. Security arrangements were in place for police forces patrolling on the river banks to ensure smooth functioning of the event.
A mobile museum in India's West Mumbai is highlighting the skills and creativity of residents of one of Asia's largest slums.
That's what we've been doing here, is creating this platform, and we came here to help it develop and to, just build it up.
The South African labour movement has won many battles for workers over the years, including over unfair working hours, the agreement of a minimum wage and wage increases. But for too many employees, decent working conditions remain a dream.
Where you have employers that do not respect the laws, we have suffered major setbacks where workers are still remaining victims of unfair dismissals. Workers are still going through pains of trying to join a union, and they are prevented from joining a union by employers when the law says they can join a union.
Employees in sectors such as mining continue to be retrenched, affecting the strength of unions. Statistics show that the number of unions has dropped, though membership has increased.
There's a number of initiatives in the broader economy that impacts on the strength of unions. You would, for example, look at the Uberization of services. Uber is an example, the delivery of food. So it impacts on the work of unions. There's the changing nature of work, where you would find digitization, etc., etc.
COSATU has been one of the most powerful federations in Africa. But recently, there have been concerns about their shift from worker-centered issues to politics.
Before I am a worker, I'm a community member. I'm affected by the daily experiences of lack of water and other services in my community. And I've got to be conscious on how we respond to that. We are in alliance with the African National Congress, the SACP, which is the South African Communist Party, and SANCO. That makes us to be in that political space.
The loss of focus on shop floor issues has seen many of the gains being reversed. According to a human sciences research study, people have lost trust in labor unions, and this includes those who have historically been supportive of organized labor.
It's in a terrible state. The trade union movement has been weakened fundamentally by the divisions, by fragmentization, by lack of focus, by internal squabbles, by corruption amongst its leaders, by all manner of other problems that makes workers to feel that the unions are no longer their voice, are no longer representing their interest, and hence they have walked away from the trade unions. If you look at the whole Platinum Belt strike, it was yet another demonstration of workers walking out of the trade unions, the established trade unions. If you look at the Warren's farm worker strike in the Western Cape, yet another demonstration of how workers are losing trust on their unions, and they walked out and they mobilized themselves, and they gained something in both of those instances. And that's why the trade union movement now only represents below 30% of the workforce in the country. 28%, some says, others put the figure as low as 23-24%.
For the past 4 years, the Federation has been going through a very painful period of divisions, of instabilities, which led to or culminated into the expulsion of one of our own biggest trade union, NUMSA, for their failure to comply with the constitutional prescripts of the Federation and subsequent the expulsion of a General Secretary, Comrade Zwelenzima. That would tell you that inside the organization we were bleeding, we were very, very weak. Our unions were divided, others for and others against those decisions.
After Thabo was abandoned by his union, Satao, he complained to the provincial office and ended up in Dlamini's office at COSATU. Even there, after numerous meetings, SMSs and emails, his matter is still unresolved.
So he comes here at this office when the case has gone through all this process and say, please COSATU help me. I've gone, I feel that my union also did not assist me. Can COSATU help me? And I agree with him when he feels let down even by us, the Federation here, because COSATU is not a trade union. Confusing you. COSATU coordinates trade unions. Representation of workers has got to happen within a trade union where a worker is a member.
COSATU says it has decided to go back to the basics. In the meantime, the country has seen the launch of another federation, SAFTU. And it seems, with the unity talks between SAFTU and NACTU, the landscape may see a further shift in the union movement, even though the talks have now stalled.
We want the workers to be the owners of their own destiny. And NACTU says it believes in the same principle. We want not some sweetheart lapdog of anybody. We want to be militant because the material conditions of workers dictate that we want that there is a need for a fighting trade union movement, not a sweetheart.
In my view as president of NACTU, I know we are going to discuss this at a structural level as well as at a Congress in July. Is that we can't antagonize other workers.
All of these developments are cold comfort to workers who believe that the union movement has let them down. They should not have to defend themselves against powerful Goliaths whose interest is the maximization of profits.